Thank you for staying tuned. Well, the management of Nigerian Stock Exchange today briefed on market performance for the year 2018 and gave an outlook for 2019. Well, let's get a sense of what happened at that briefing. Temple Ashaju will give us all the details. Hello, Temple. So what did Oscar Onyema and his team say today? What were the major takeaways for market participants and journalists?
So I think it was basically about the review of 2018 and, of course, the outlook for 2019. In terms of the review for 2018, it talked about the fact that the market lost by more than 17% in terms of value for last year alone, 2018, and that was just based on the fact that we saw so much of political uncertainties in the second half of the year, and of course the whole policy normalization that we saw in the United States. Basically, those were the two key reasons. Of course, it has a whole lot of other elements related to that, but these were the two key reasons that he gave. And of course, they noted the fact that in the first half of the year, the market was really positive, gave room for a lot of investors to take profit, and a lot of investors were able to double their capital in the market, and a lot of the companies appreciated. He talked about the fact that there was there was reduction in the foreign inflows last year. Foreign portfolio investment declined from 4.5 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2018 to 1.7 trillion naira in the third quarter, that's September the 30th for 2018. And these reasons, the reason why we saw the decline is simply because of these two factors that we've mentioned. Internally, the stock exchange talks about upping its game around the sustainability disclosure rules. The guidelines for the market was basically well implemented, and a whole lot of CSR initiatives of the stock exchange were well implemented. For the marathon race, for example, where they raise fund for cancer treatments and all of that. Last year alone, which is like the 5th edition of the program, they raised some 29 million naira. And right now, he talks about the fact that in total, what they have so far toward that project is 129 million naira. He talks about the fact that they were able to implement some 16 programs. They were also able to go around the country to do some of these financial literacy programs. They were able to do 175 of that in total. And of course, he talked about some 968 participants in a whole lot of the programs, initiatives that they carried out last year. In terms of outlook going forward, Oscar Onyema was really bullish about the second half of this year. He talked about the first half of 2019, says things are really going to look bleak. They're hoping that the quick passage of the 2019 budget will change the game. However, we know that there will be so much of political tension, creating a whole lot of uncertainties in the domestic market. But then again, the trade tension between the United States and China is one of the key events to really watch, as Oscar Onyema-led team talked about. He also talked about the downward growth that is expected in the global economy, that it will all impact on the market in 2019. But he's bullish about the 2.3% growth in this year. That's for Nigeria. So that should also culminate in some kind of improvement in the primary market activities, and of course with positive implication for the secondary market activities in the second half of this year. Chimeze.
I understand because of this briefing, trading activities were suspended and we're just resuming trading just a few minutes ago. Does that mean that today's trading will be extended?
Yes, we understand that the trading started just a few minutes ago, 1:45 p.m. Usually when things like this happen, there must have been some kind of technical glitch, and that's probably the reason why we've seen the delay in trades in the market. If you go to the portal of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you can find so much of activities. I think it's about past 1 p.m. Local time today. We saw a bit of resumption, and then there was a bit of failure again. So we got announcements some few minutes ago that trading has started, and it did start at 1:45 p.m. That's 15 minutes to 2. So we understand there will be an extension till 3:30 p.m. today, 3:30 p.m. local time, and that's for traders who are still waiting right here on the floor to be able to implement their clients' mandates, whether sell or buy.
Were you able to see what the figures look like? Does it look bullish? or bearish at this time?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all, Chimeze. As at the time the trading opened briefly at past 1 p.m. Local time, we saw a couple of numbers. Axis Bank was on decline by some 0.5%, and just a few companies immediately surfaced on the trading portal, but then the failure, shut down things again. So I think before the market closes at 3:30 p.m. today, we should be able to get some more details. However, we know, how things have been playing out in the market up until last week. We are expecting that the kind of sentiment we saw last week, where we saw a whole lot of profit-taking, reduction in holdings on companies, and of course for companies that have some good news surrounding their performance, a lot of investors will continue to move into all of such companies. We're talking about the likes of CNN that has announced some kind of business combination with Colambina Cement. We're talking about Diamond Bank, of course, which has its M&A with Axis Bank. We're looking at Vitafoam, which has a bit of a 25 kobo declaration and dividends for investors, and of course for a few other companies like WAPCO, Lafarge WAPCO, which is carrying out its a rights issue now in the market. So those are the kind of those are the key companies to watch. Some companies have also in recent times seen some kind of decline, so their share prices have, in terms of losses, now bottomed out, and we're seeing investors making re-entry. Fidelity Bank is one of that. Did some negative trading in some 4 sessions, and afterwards did some positive trading, gaining 11% up until today, up until the last trading day, which is Friday. So today the market is resuming. A few minutes ago as it resumed, we should see more traction on it, while a few investors take profit on such a company. Chimeze.
Let's leave it at that. Thank you. I'll move on now. South Africa's ruling party has asked the central bank to broaden its focus to include boosting employment and economic growth, a move that will worry investors already concerned about the direction of economic policy. The African National Congress, which has governed South Africa since the end of apartheid in 1994, but has seen its majority wane, is trying to woo voters in the lead-up to a parliamentary election expected to take place in May. The party, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, wants to counter growing support for the radical leftist economic freedom fighters, which wants the government to have a greater say in how the South African Reserve Bank is managed. The South African Reserve Bank's mandate now focuses on price stability, but the ANC said in its 2019 election manifesto released on Saturday that monetary policy should also take into account other objectives such as employment creation and economic growth. And India's Bharti Airtel has agreed to give part of its stake in Airtel Tanzania to the government, raising the East African nation's holding in the mobile phone operator to 49% from 40%. The announcement followed talks in Dar es Salaam between President John Magufuli and Bharti Airtel chairman Sanil Mittal to resolve a dispute over ownership of the Tanzanian mobile operator. A statement from the president's office says Bharti Airtel would retain a 51% stake in the company without giving a value for shares being transferred to the government. Magufuli had said in 2017 that state-run Tanzania Telecommunications Company Limited owned the local subsidiary of Bharti Airtel outright, but had been cheated out of shares. And that's it on the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.